All right, everybody. Hope everyone's having a great day. Welcome to the Hard Truth Indiana Football Postgame Show. We're going to go without intro music and all that this week because we're running a little bit behind, and we've got a special guest, of course, in addition to Coach Shannon Griffith being with us. Zander Diamont. I don't know why I called him Mr. Excitement today in a post, because when I think about you when you played, man, it was always exciting. You never knew what the hell was going to happen, but something good was going to happen. A lot of the times it was going to be crazy. Welcome, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. And I will accept the nickname. That works for me.
What's going on with your life now? I know you're out in Arizona. I saw just in a bit, looks like you're some minimum living housing, which looks to be perfect right up for our people that live out in the Southwest. That sounds like everything, all you need, man.
Yeah, I left Los Angeles at the beginning of COVID, came to Arizona to start developing real estate. And yeah, I started a company with my business partner called Minimal Living Concepts. Basically, we plan, permit, and build modern guest homes and homes. And we've done over 105 projects now in the last 3 years. We're the largest guest home builder in Arizona, and we're expanding into single family homes. We've got 3 pretty incredible spec houses we're building, and we're ramping up to do 10 next year. So it's been a journey. It's been fun. And I also just had a son, so I've got an 8-month-old. So that's
wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, that's keeping me super busy and has been awesome. So.
Well, I think we lost Coach there for a bit, but he'll jump back on here. But how about this Indiana Hoosier team, man, Zander? They are now 8-0, firmly in the college football playoff conversation, but today they tie another 57-year-old record with the 1967 Rose Bowl team that started the season 8-0, but that team lost in their next game. So up next, it could be all Indiana's and all Signetti's, as it has been all Signetti up until this point.
Yeah, I mean, as an alum, it's former player. It's been pretty incredible to watch. I've been, every Saturday I get on a FaceTime with Kofi Hughes and Zeke Roundtree, a couple former players, and we're just, everybody's juiced up, everybody's excited. Just seeing game day there was surreal. The finished stadium, packed house. It's been incredible, man. It's been really something to watch. It's been impressive. The way that the team is really just rallied around each other. They appear to be extremely mature, extremely bought in. So whatever Sig is doing, he's just got to keep doing it.
Well, and today he did it, as a matter of fact, a lot like what your situation was like when you were playing. You were probably sitting over there, never thinking that you're going to have to go in, and all of a sudden, boom, boom, bam, you're playing against Ohio State. You're doing all these things that you end up doing, and that was probably not on your bingo card.
No, it was definitely not on my bingo card. Look, it was the most incredible experience of my life, but it was not ideal. It was, I was way undersized. I was not ready to play. I had not been getting reps. Didn't really have a complete understanding of the offense. Just was not ready to play, and never really got a chance to, play Indiana State and kind of get my feet under me. So for me, that was, even though it was exhilarating and incredible, it was a very frustrating way to be thrown in and kind of be judged that, through that lens. So it was challenging, but it really grew me as a person, and it prepared me for the next couple seasons in a way that, sitting on the bench just doesn't do.
Yeah, and it's awesome to hear you say, because a lot of times, especially today, it's so much me now. So it's great. And all these years later, for you to say that and to recognize that, I sure hope that others hear that, especially younger people. But you went into a situation where you had to perform, and like you said, you had a lot of things stacked up against you. You managed to do that. Taven probably not nearly the obstacles in front of him today, but it was a challenge for him. The offense looked sluggish. It was laggy. Then all of a sudden he'd make a really good play. And that seems to be the mantra of this entire team. Boy, when they need it, bam, somebody makes a play, whether it's that pick six or the big burst on the run or Taven making one of those throws. This team is just looking like one that, I don't want to say a team of destiny, that's hokey, but they just continue, even when they're they're injured, like right now without Curtis Rourke. This defense, man, they were ferocious.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the offense was a little shaky, but given the situation, you've got your backup quarterback coming in. The ball wasn't spread around quite like it is with Rourke, but I thought he played great given the circumstances, made some big throws when he needed to, had a couple big runs. I was pretty impressed. I know what it's like, as you said, to kind of come into a situation that you're not, coming in as a backup is challenging. In some ways, it's when the expectations are low, it can be actually kind of an advantage because you kind of go out there and you play free. That was at least how I felt, but that's not this situation. This is a 7-0. This was a 7-0 football team, the number one story in the country, and he came in there and played incredibly well, I thought, given the circumstances. So, I tweeted out, like, to have a backup that can come in and ball and kind of keep the team where they need to be is the sign of a very, very good team, a very good coaching staff, a really good program, a sign of guys that are really bought in. And I was very, impressed. So I thought he played great.
Coach, we got you back now.
Yeah.
It was obvious that early on the offense was not quite as potent as it normally was, but the defense really just stood up quickly and kind of punched Washington in the mouth.
Yeah, if you remember Thursday, I said two things I said on Thursday were critically important for today. One was the defense was going to have to play a little bit better than they have been, and for the most part, they did. They got the big score on the first drive of the game, which was huge. And then I said the special teams were going to have to set up a score, which they did. And at the end of the day, they won the turnover battle. And for Taven, and like Zander said, it's a difficult situation coming in as a pure backup. And Taven's one of those guys, until he gets all his confidence back, if it's not a clear picture for him, he gets a little inconsistent in terms of what he wants to do with the football. But you saw when he had a consistency in the protection and he could step back and rip it, he spends it better than anybody I've seen in a long time. But 11-19, 124 yards, that's nothing to shake a stick at, in that regard. And they rushed for 188. Justin Ellison, man, did he show how he's the big time player today? He was like, I want the ball, put it on me, and I'm going to get it done. And the kid got it done. I mean, it was unbelievable to watch him in that second half of the game.
Yeah. And just to add, I think, speaking to the defense, I think when you come in as a backup and you see your defense get a couple stops early in the game when you're kind of struggling to get the ball moving, it gives you confidence. It makes you feel like the whole game isn't on your back, which is really the way you need to operate as a backup, because you just need to not get your team beat when your team is good, like this team is. Don't be the reason your team loses. Like, don't be Zander Diamont against Michigan State and throw for 11 yards. We'll take the 120 or whatever or 180, whatever he threw for. And so, he didn't get his team beat, and the defense stepped up and was huge. So, again, another sign of a very, very strong program.
And the other thing to point out is Coleman, the running back for Washington. He is a player. Now, you take away a 50-yard run and about a 15-yard run, and he only has probably 40 yards on 17 carries if you take 2 away. That is yeoman's work for a defense, because you saw how big of a running back he is to bring down. And they just got to the point where they had to get away from it. I mean, they were down, they had to get away from it. And while Will Rogers threw for 202 yards, he had no touchdowns and 2 interceptions on the day. And that has kind of been Washington's season in a nutshell. They've at times have been there to get things done, and they can't get it done. And some of that is Indiana's defense today and other defenses, and some of it's just poor execution on Washington's part.
Yeah, the defense, like I said, it's set the tone early, but it did get gashed for that big run that set up a touchdown. But overall, man, they bowed up in the second half. The defensive line again, not just they're like buzzsaws. It's like beavers going through wood, man. They're just going. It's like all the time. It's great to see that. Zander, I bet you, well, speaking of lines, I'm sure this offensive line Indiana has right now, you'd love to play behind them. Those guys, they have been amazing in the turnaround. You want to talk about a turnaround in a unit. The offensive line has been Indiana's Achilles heel for a few years, and all of a sudden, Bob Bostat now is still, he was the only coach retained by Kurt Signet, and you can see why. The job that he's got these guys doing, they are doing a tremendous job protecting Indiana's quarterback, and that is a big difference in the game or not. We saw that when Taven was given some time to make a good throw. He did today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, when you're coming off the bench, it's like if you can just feel settled in and you can have a little bit of time. They called a lot of ISO routes, just one guy making a dude, making a guy miss on a route, and allowed him to just kind of settle in there and make a big throw, lean into his arm talent. And, that's what they did. I thought the play calling was exactly what it should be given the circumstance. They didn't try to, I don't think they opened up the entire offense. That looked pretty obvious to me, which is smart. You shouldn't in that situation, keep your quarterback comfortable, play to his strengths. And I thought it was beautiful. The offensive line is outstanding. And, when you see a guy not on his heels, not having to scramble around, again, another sign of a great team, a great offensive line. And I thought the play calling was very smart given the circumstance.
No sacks today either, Jim.
Yeah, today's a game, Coach.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's critical because it comes in a day that Indiana gets outgained for the first time in either half, and especially the game, but in yardage for that matter. But with the defense and the offense doing what it needed to do, capitalizing when it needed to, they got by with not having a tremendously great day, either rushing or passing. Taven Jackson wasn't bad. He was 11 of 19 for 124 yards and a touchdown, a quarterback rating of 112. It was up there kind of high in the beginning. And rushing wise, they only had 108. Well, they had 188 yards as a team. So that's where their bread and butter came. And a lot of that came in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter. I don't think they had a passing yard in the fourth quarter, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, they only threw it 5 times in the second half in the ball game, and one of them was on that big third down route he hit on a dig route over the middle. No sacks by the offensive line, which is critical. And look, Washington's defense in a lot of things are very similar categorically wise to IU's defense. That is a no slouch defense on that other side. Belichick does a really good job. He creates problems, and sometimes they were confusing the quarterback with some of the things that they were doing defensively, jumping around and in and out of stuff. And that's the other thing too, is even from a play calling perspective, when you've had one guy that you've been play calling for and you're in rhythm with that guy, it's hard to reestablish that with a backup guy, because there's just that enough of, I'm not quite sure what he likes here, or, is he wandering too much here and I'm going to pull back there. You get into that mindset, and that sometimes can be a problematic thing as well. But good teams, championship teams, find ways to win games that they are not as good as they have shown in previous weeks. And today is a prime example why Indiana is a championship caliber team in the Big Ten. And I don't think anybody right now can deny that.
Yeah. And I think that that's kind of my point, is the play calling around Jackson was conservative, but not scared. They weren't throwing slants and bubbles all day. They let him push the ball downfield, but they didn't put him in a position to lose the game or be the guy that has to win the game. And so, just a smart strategy, a smart approach. Also, typically, at least when I was playing, leading into a week like this, the offensive coordinator and head coach are meeting with the quarterback saying, hey, what do you want? Like, what do you feel really comfortable with? And so it just looked to me like a lot of those deeper kind of isolating a receiver type plays, it just seemed a little different than the way that they play call for Rourke. And it's probably because that's what Jackson likes, and he gets those reps in practice and feels comfortable. Again, he's got a lot of arm strength. So I just really liked the way that they approached everything. They didn't put him in a position to lose it for them. The other thing that I think that I'm kind of interested to get your guys' perspective on it, and I've been saying this to some former teammates, is like, when I watch this team, I don't mean this in any offensive way. I don't see dudes that jump off the screen. I don't see like Cody Latimer's. I don't see Tevin Coleman. I don't see, Dan Feeney. Actually, there might be a Dan Feeney on the line. But my point is like, I don't see a Michael Penix. Right. I don't see guys that I'm like, he's going to the league. He's going to the league. Like, I don't see this team of NFL dudes that Wilson at least seemed to be able to attract and recruit. Now, Rourke is like next level impressive and calm and incredible as just a kind of a game manager. And I mean that as a compliment, not a negative at all. The guy is never rattled. He's probably the calmest quarterback I've ever seen, and just puts the ball on the money. But I don't see dudes that just jump out. Even a Shane Wynn, right? Like a dude that's just got world-class speed. And I think, again, it goes back to like, Sig has some ability clearly to get everybody on the same page. I listened to some of the interviews of the players. Everybody seems incredibly mature. I think they've got guys in their locker room that are real leaders. And this is just a team that's bought in, that's playing together. Everybody's doing their job. There's very few mistakes being made. It's just really impressive and interesting to watch, and a very different Indiana football than kind of what we've seen for the last 10 years. So yeah.
Coach, I'm gonna let you respond, and I'm gonna pop back in. I'm gonna fix something.
Yeah, well, there'll be two things. I think Rourke is an NFL prospect. I think he came out of Ohio U as an NFL prospect to Indiana. They don't have a Tevin because they don't have that, or Jordan in that respect, that has that top end speed that's going to take a 5 and make it 75. But they've got a committee of running backs that are good, and they have a lot of change of pace guys that they didn't even get to Keon Black today. He only had 3 carries. He's another really good back, and this Elijah Green kid that is also good. So
Ellison, sorry to cut you off. Ellison does give me a little bit of Jordan Howard in the sense that he always falls forward.
Yeah,
he always gets you 3, always gets you 4,
right,
always gets that extra yard, which is like, if you could pick any characteristic in a running back, that might be the one.
Right.
So again, but to your point, is he breaking 60-yard runs all the time like Tevin was? And even Jordan, the way Jordan really punished people.
Yeah, right. He was more of a punisher.
He hurt people.
Yeah, right.
And so I don't see that, but I think you're right. Rourke is, I think he's NFL level IQ, calm. But I wonder, does he have the arm talent?
Yeah, I think he's got to, because the one thing that he has that is a must in the NFL is accuracy. I mean, he's completing about 76, 77% of his passes on the year. And these are not bubble screens. I mean, he's throwing the ball down the field and does it consistently. And outside of Maryland, he's thrown very few interceptions. That game at Maryland, he had 2. And that was like, oh, my God, the world's coming to an end.
Right.
But on the outside, what you get outside with guys is you get a lot of guys that are disciplined in their route running, that they get open.
Mm-hmm.
Like today, Miles Price gets open Omar Cooper comes off the bench, runs a dig route, gets open, and it's a big time touchdown throw on the dig route on the right-hand side of the field. I mean, that kid, he comes off the bench 9 out of 10 times of the game, but he's always making big plays, it seems, like that. But I don't think they have the elusiveness that maybe that they've had in the past at the wideout spot, guys that you just jumps off the page at you like, hey man, I want to, I can get this guy down the field. So
I'm not saying it as a bad thing, by the way.
No.
It's just interesting to me. Like,
there's a difference between, this is what I think, this is what SIG is good at. I think I've heard Urban Meyer say it from a coaching perspective. They take a lot of really, really good athletes and they make them great. And that's coaching. They make them fundamentally sound in what they do. They run crisp routes. They cause chaos on defense. They tackle for the most part pretty well for a team that Signetti's philosophy, he doesn't believe in tackling live in practice. I mean, they tackled once in camp live. So that's what they do very well. And they have this utmost confidence that is, pumped into them. Yep. By the way they do things. He's very process oriented as opposed to transactional oriented. A lot of coaches are transactional. It's all about this winning and and if you don't win for me, you're going to get this, where he is about the here and now. And it's all about a process and that's how you win. And that's what you see out of an IU team right now, of their process. And they don't blink. They don't blink. I mean, they could have blinked today at 17-13, I believe, or 14 or whatever it was there, where it could have gone south real quick. And they battled back.
Yeah, and it speaks to what's really important in the sport, which is at the end of the day, if you can get these guys on the same page, marching in step, like you said, the confidence that SIG exudes, clearly the team has, picked up. Like, it's just special to watch. But I just, every time I turn on the TV, I'm like, it's for this team to be 8-0 it's just incredible. It's just incredible. So yeah, that's the thought that I continue to have.
To put it in perspective, Zander, this is something that when Big Noon Kickoff was here last week, and we were interviewing Matt Leinart the day before in a press media availability, but he told us that there are 44 guys on this roster that were 0 stars coming out of high school. And I'm like, what? I'm like, how's that even possible? But right. That just shows you that the like everything the coach just said. But that's good for the here and the now, because I agree with you, and I understand what you're saying. That's going to have to change, I think, if you want to consistently try to be going for a national championship. Maybe not. I don't know, but because it's going on now. But is that something? Is this lightning in a bottle? But these recruits that are coming in on these visits, they are 4 stars. They are 5 stars. So sure. There's a lot of talent that's coming in, and that could be the route that this is going next. Is just an incredible and constant upgrade of talent.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the Michigan State turnaround that happened back when I was playing, or I guess it was it started a couple years before I started playing. It reminds me a little bit of the Missouri days when Missouri was on top and they had a bunch of 3-star dudes, but they were winning SEC championships. I think it's the best foundation that you can build upon, because you're not leaning on any individual talent. Like when we had Penix, to me, the first game I watched him, I was like, that's an NFL guy. He can just throw the ball on a line 50 yards across the field. Like, this is, this guy's a freak. But that's not the best foundation to build a program on, because then you're always trying to replace talent with talent, as opposed to a real philosophy around how this team is structured, how we coach, what kind of program we run. And so I think there could not be a better, and take the record and all that out of it. I just don't think you could have a better foundation to build a program on and to recruit under.
Yeah, the biggest part of this is just how football's changed, Jim. Like you said, there's how it's changed, and you can speak to the change that you've witnessed down there with just the NIL stuff and how that changes everything.
Well, you can see it right now, because without that, this team's not here. The transfer portal is obviously a gigantic part of it, but that's the NIL is the other part of that. So without both of those, you don't have this team. Not that they've gone out and put together a $10 million roster or something. That's not been the case, but what they've done is incredible.
Yeah, and that's actually what I was going to say is, like, yes, we wouldn't have this team without the ability to transfer, but this is not an NIL team. And like, I've been watching a lot of UNLV, and I've been watching a lot of Duke, because my brother is playing left guard at UNLV right now, and my other brother Luca graduated from Duke a year ago, so I still like to follow them. Both having amazing seasons, and what I see and kind of the shake up in college football this year is these teams that are not really NIL built and I don't mean in terms of transfers, but I mean in terms of money and the cars and all the bullshit we see every day on Instagram. Those teams are the teams that are excelling right now. Obviously, you have some teams like Oregon that are always going to have the freaks and the best talent and the best stuff, but the Indianas, the UNLV, the Illinois, the Dukes, like all these teams that, if they don't have the foundational process, the leadership, the character, if they don't have those traits, then they have nothing. And it's like, again, just what a beautiful foundation to build upon. And it really does show you, at the end of the day, this game is about getting every guy on the field to play together. It's not about how can you raise the most money to get the best dude. Now that doesn't hurt necessarily. I'd even make the argument that is hurting a lot of these teams that traditionally would excel and are struggling this season. Is like, yeah, because you built your home on straws. You went out and you just spent money and you basically bought a team. Ultimately, at the end of the day, that's just not how this sport works. And so it's just been really, really interesting to watch.
Well, luckily we'll get to watch a lot more of this team, as they are now 8-0, as I said earlier, tying the 1967 Rose Bowl team with the first 8-0 start, and only 2 now. The next game out at Michigan State, another test. Michigan State has been a team that has been kind of up and down, but hopefully Indiana is going to get healthy. Curtis Rourke, a lot of talk on him that he had surgery on that nail or whatever it was, believed to be lost his thumbnail. Well, we saw it. If you saw the picture, the photo showed it pretty clearly.
I didn't see a photo. What's
man, you could see the nail up against the helmet.
Oh yeah. That looked ugly.
But his hand was over here though. So, but yeah, it's and you know what an injury like that's like. I mean, it's just that's probably the biggest fear of a quarterback when you're throwing in a crushing pocket is when you follow through. Is, man, those guys are coming right as you're dropping, and it's a recipe for disaster. But hopefully he's going to be back by Michigan State. That's just been the reports that is a possibility. I would think that they don't want to rush him back because you've got 2 monster games coming after that. Not that every game isn't big, and I guess you have to look at it that way because they can't lose to Michigan State. So would they be able to go there with Taven Jackson? That's going to be that's a different animal. Now we're talking going into an 80,000 seat stadium, Zander, and facing that hostile Big Ten crowd that they're looking for success, man. I think they were 3-3 going into this weekend, I believe. I don't know what they are doing or had done today. They're still thinking that they've got bowl in their mind. That's a team with tradition. So they're trying to get back to where they were, and they would love nothing more than to knock off this juggernaut of a freight train that is Indiana right now.
Yeah, I have not been tracking Michigan State specifically, so I don't know much about how they're doing this year. At the end of the day, this is the Big Ten. Everybody's good. You want to win every game. There's no week that you get to kind of chill. Like I think that's what's so funny. That some of the stuff I read on Twitter of like, oh, easy week, or you could take your foot off to get like. Dude, it's the Big Ten. These are some of the best athletes in the world, and every freaking team has money. They all have stadiums. They're all good. And so I don't hearing, listening to all the interviews I've listened to of Sig, I know that that's not the kind of mindset he's going to bring. It's just another game, another team that he's going to go knock down. I think we can win with Jackson, but I really don't like hand stuff for quarterbacks, like thumb, fingers. There's something about throwing a football and throwing anything where there's like this immeasurable thing with your finger dexterity when you throw a football that is so related to how accurate a guy is and how tight they can spin the ball. You can't measure it, but when you have an injury in your fingers or in your hand and you're just a little gingerly, it can be worse than, your leg or your knee being hurt or banged up, because now you float the ball a little bit. Now you're pushing the ball a little bit. It can create, it can get in your head too, because then when the injury heals, you've been trying to correct your motion in your hand. So I don't know how bad it is. I have no inside information whatsoever. I just know that, I've had, thumb stuff young in my football career, and I've had other hand stuff. And I hate that kind of thing for a quarterback. It's a weird, it just can create other weird things down the line.
Yeah, and hopefully he can get back as soon as he can, but not in a position to where it puts any part of the rest of the season in jeopardy. Like I said, big games, not that every game is not big. Big games coming up, though, with Michigan coming in to Bloomington after that trip to East Lansing, and another potential visit by Fox's big noon kickoff. You never know, but because this team keeps generating all of this talk and media publicity, they're loving it. They're loving Signet. He's been an incredible ambassador for Indiana, but yeah, today it was like a circus, man. And I wondered if for people that wondered, would that affect what's going on? Because Signet was a part of it, man. He could turn that switch on, but he obviously knows when he goes inside that locker room, I guarantee you, he knows how to turn that switch off. And because there's a different man that was on that stage and it was in that locker room, because his team, especially the defense, they didn't see it. They didn't see or hear any outside noise that I could tell.
No, they didn't. And one thing I wanted to say about Curtis, that's the most promising thing about this whole thing. He threw the ball some this week, and I guess he threw some today in the stadium. So the fact that he's doing that at 6 days out from an injury, a week out from an injury like that to me is really promising. And what they ultimately did to that nail bed. And I think they even put surgical screws in of some sort to help that growth of the nail what I garnered. But everything that I'm hearing from the people that I've talked to, they're all are promising in their discussions about his ability to play next week. Now, whether that happens or not, we won't know, because that's not going to happen until the game starts. But you're correct. That's a part of this team. I mean, you always hear him say, I recruit production over potential. I mean, that goes back to why you may not see a 5-star guy out of the portal. He'll rather take a guy that's a 3-star mid-major that's a starter for 3 years over a guy that maybe think got potential, but he takes the guys that has production. He wants the guys that have played and knows how to play the game. And that's what you saw of a defense today. They just did their business today. They took care of themselves. They really didn't care about what was going on around them. They only had the one bad drive where they gave up the big run to Coleman.
Yeah, there was never a moment of, and even for me watching the game, I didn't feel any moment of panic. It was like, no, like we're good. And I think the moment Jackson kind of settled in, things were great. The defense was awesome. The Pons interception was huge. The D-line was amazing as well. So I agree with you. They just didn't look rattled. Sig is clearly not the rattled type like Wilson was.
well, here's the thing about Sig that's different from Kevin. Sig is a more inward introvert personality wise. So he doesn't have a tendency that the only time he wants to say anything is when he's really got something to drive home. Now, I guarantee you today, he probably said something at halftime to this offense and that offensive line, especially about putting it on their back because that's what they were going to need to do. But he's a man of very little words from what I understand. And even talking to the DC that I know very well, he only says things when he needs to say it. And that to me shows a lot about how he runs himself. And you're talking about a guy that's now been a head coach for 20 plus years. So he knows how to be a head coach because he's done the tried true methods of how to do it. He understands it. He understands to motivate what it takes to be a guy that gets his message across. He's not a guy that's going to go in and rip your ass for something that in the grand scheme of things isn't really worth the value. Now he'll coach the heck out of you. And you saw some of that today, even when they were up, but he's just one of those calming influences that I think the kids have a lot of confidence in him as a coach and everything. Now, the only thing I was critical of today, first drive, they should have kicked the field goal. Backup quarterback in the game. It's 4th and 3. I take the points there just for the standpoint of getting off on the right foot. But see, that's not SIG. SIG is about letting it all hang out. Again, I don't know how much we can say anymore about these guys. They're good. I mean, that's the bottom line. They're good.
Agreed.
And going forward, they've got, like I said, some big games coming up. Michigan comes in here, but of course, the game that we all have circled on the calendar is at Ohio State. Mitchell, who are some of the teammates that you talk to right now, Zander?
I talk all the time to Kofi and Kofi Hughes and Zeke Roundtree. It's kind of funny because when I came in as a freshman, those guys were seniors. I actually didn't get to I didn't even get to play a season with Kofi. I think I had one season with Zeke. But I just was, I got extremely close with those guys. So those guys I talk to the most. I still talk to Ty Smith, Tracy Smith's son. And that's really it. Other guys, a little bit here and there. Me and Mitchell Page talk on Twitter and stuff like that. But mostly Kofi and Zeke.
I'm just curious, but now I forgot what I was saying, but whatever point I was making, so it wasn't very, very good. But going forward, Ohio State, that's a team that, I know what. Mitchell was on the 11, and that's what got me thinking about it. He was on this 11-1 campaign from like week 1. I had a path to 6-0 was my thing, and I just let it play out from there. But he's a wild man. Yeah, he's all over Twitter, and we love him. He's on with us as often as we can get him on. But this is a team that if they could get Curtis Rourke back healthy, with this defense doing what they do to everybody they play, I don't care who it is, what team it is, what kind of offense it is, they've done it to all of them. This team can go 12-0, and to say those words out of my mouth, it's crazy.
No, they absolutely can.
But it's real.
Yeah, it's real, and it's hard to win at Ohio State just because of the environment. Doesn't even matter how good the team is. When you're backed up in that stadium, when we played there was a moment where I was backed up in my own end zone, and I was 4 inches away from the ear hole of all my linemen screaming the play at the top of my lungs, and they still couldn't hear me. So it's just a challenging environment. I still think Ohio State's beatable. I've always thought they were beatable. We've been, this is the other kind of funny thing. It's like, it's interesting that, people are talking about Indiana right now, like they've just come out of, a cave, or like they've come out of nowhere. I would have thought this reaction, I actually would have expected this reaction during the Penix years. I understand why we didn't have this reaction during the Wilson era. We just didn't win enough games that we should have won. We definitely had some 8-win possible seasons there for sure. But, why was I bringing that up? I'm forgetting my point, but I just think it's interesting that we talk about Ohio State like they're not beatable, but this is why I brought it up. But we've been playing toe to toe with these programs for a decade. Like it's not like we've been out here getting our ass handed to us. It's actually been the opposite. We lose a game we should win against Wake Forest or something like that, and then we go down to a field goal with Ohio State 3 years in a row and Michigan 3 years in a row and beat Michigan State and Penn State. So we've already played with all of these teams. And so to me, it's like, why are we talking about Ohio State like they're just this unbeatable program? Like we've already almost beat them several times.
Yeah, the other thing that gives you hope in this arena is Nebraska goes in there today and Ohio State can't run it at all. Cannot run it at all. If it wasn't for 2 big plays, they're lucky to score 14 points today. So that's the ironic thing here when you have the common opponent type of scenario. The one thing I like about the setup with Indiana at Ohio State, if we get to that point and everything comes to fruition and they play good enough football to do it, the pressure is all going to be on Ohio State because everybody's going to say, how is Indiana this or how is Indiana that? I mean, I guarantee you Michigan will be saying that when they come here in 2 weeks.
It will be the darkest day.
Yeah, it's Washington State was even saying it. Washington State was even saying that they were a little perturbed of all the publicity that Indiana was getting, and they were the team that was in the national title game a year ago, and they were felt like disrespected coming into Indiana, and they had something to prove. But
yeah, I think Nebraska fans felt like that as well.
Yeah, so, exactly. So they didn't get the memo. And
the greatest thing I've heard all year long was I think it's from Pat McAfee. He got it from Kurt Signet. He said, ask him about the trip out to UCLA. He goes, if they're going to come out there and stay an extra day, and I don't know. He said, we're going to get out there as late as possible, go to bed, get up, have a sandwich, go out there, kick their ass, get back on a plane, and come back here. And I'm like,
it's crazy.
That is just, that's perfect. But business at hand. But yeah,
that's
but
D2.
yes.
Question.
That's D2 mentality right there, baby.
Yeah, true, right? The question is though, like, how do we keep this guy now? Apparently his wife loves Bloomington. It seems that he really likes Indiana and Bloomington. So I just want to make sure that IU, does everything they can to support this guy, give him all the money he needs, give him all
Get your checkbook out, Xander. I already told Isaac the same thing. Get your checkbook out, boys.
Well, I will say this, Indiana, and they do, yes, they're going to have to make some adjustments, and I'm sure that they know that. But they need to try to keep these the coordinators as much as possible as well, because This is a great thing that they have going on right now. And I know nothing lasts forever, but if they want to move on, but they've been with him for quite a while. So, but that aside, yeah, they need to do that.
It's a good point, though. You do want to keep the entirety of the staff together. I just think that's impossible because one of these guys is going to get poached and make a career move. Obviously, all these guys typically want to be head coaches, so that's expected. But yeah, man, we need to keep this dude. Where's Mark Cuban? He should stop. He needs to stop fundraising for Kamala, and he needs to,
Well, that's the one thing
where it's important.
That is one thing that I will say with Scott Dawson and what he's been able to do. And maybe you can speak to this to Jim a little bit. I think he's done a hell of a job in trying to give the means necessary, both financially and everything possible to him and Signet. And actually, they're a lot better in the NIL money treasure chest than anyone would ever have thought they were, which is a credit to Scott. Now, maybe you can speak a little bit better to that, Jim, just because you're kind of at ground zero. But I think Scott Dawson understands that having a successful football program, as does the president, goes a long way in terms of everything around you. They just did a study, economic impact in Bloomington's up like 200%.
That's the thing. It's like this is just an investment. Like, what, you're going to open another department at your university? You're going to get 10x having a good football program what you would get doing anything else. We've got
the Signet effect.
Yeah, we've got $4 or $5 billion in our endowment. Like, just like, let's just be a football program, and it requires money. We all know this, but it will get paid back. Like, I just, again, I don't know the AD, so I don't know what those conversations are like, but that was just always the thing that was frustrating to me, was like, we've got this incredible brand, this incredible alumni. There's no better college town in America. Let's just do it. And you got to pay to play. So, I hope that we just back this guy the way that he deserves.
Well, it looks like that's headed in that direction, no doubt. And I know Indiana fans hope that it continues that way. Next opportunity comes next week as they travel on the road to Michigan State, like I said, to take on a team that has been a little up and down this year. But and you guys talked about today that I didn't get to see the Ohio State game. So the result, so that was a close game today, apparently.
21-17, and Raiola threw a pick on their last drive that they weren't threatening at the point, but Nebraska had the ball in their hands and a chance, and came up short 21-17. And
I wonder what
my whole point is, sorry, but my whole point to bring that up is, what does that make Indiana look like in the spotlight and the eyes of those national pundits who keep kind of poo-pooing their schedule?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I'm looking it up right now. I'm wondering if the odds for the Indiana Ohio State game have shifted since that, given that update. So,
well, the line today actually went down from 6.5 all the way down to 5 points prior to kickoff, and Indiana again covered the spread with chump change. So they've covered the spread the last 2 weeks, matter of fact, all season, by double digits. So Vegas is going to have to start.
It's right now
it's an adjustment because they're going to get their ass handed to them.
Ohio State is 29-point favorites. Let me see this. Sorry, I'm looking it up. I'm not a gambler, so this isn't really my language. But anyway, that was my first thought.
But and this team is doing everything that they need to do to be. I think that they should be talked about with more reverence right now than say Ohio State, but that's not going to happen, because I always talk about what's on the jersey. What's on the jersey matters, because if it didn't, Notre Dame would in no way be ranked where they are with a loss at home to Northern Illinois. I'm sorry, you can't erase that. I know they beat Navy handily today, but I'm not sure how good Navy really is. Their schedule's not that tough, but Indiana, when they say people talk about their schedule, I'm like, dude, they're the most efficient and the highest scoring team in America. They have a top 7 rated defense in America. Number 1 in the Big Ten in offense, number 2 in defense. That's not by virtue of an easy schedule.
No, it's the Big Ten, man. There is no easy schedule. It's the most nonsensical point ever. I wouldn't even listen to those people.
Exactly. But I think that just it finally is, but it's finally dawning on people that we have to take this seriously. But I think a lot of people are the game day folks. I mean, that alone, that is huge for Indiana, for the program, for the school, for the town. I mean, that was just a gigantic television commercial, and you cannot.
How many kids that are applying to Indiana right now, and it's one of their, it's in their top 5. How many kids are going, yeah, if they take me, that's where I'm going to school. So it's like, this is the football effect.
The Signet effect. It is definitely being felt. But most importantly, it's being felt in this football program. And I'll say another thing, being here today, I was fortunate to be in school during the Mallory era and to enjoy a lot of winning, a lot of bowl games, but there has never been a single day that was more electric environment than this was here today.
You had
way. college game day. You had a capacity read out, and there were more people. The record for a game is like 56,000 or something, and from 69 against Purdue, which I don't think can be broken because there's not enough seating to break it. But there were more people here, and I mean by outside and around, I'll guarantee you, than ever in any history, because it was crazy. Behind the set at ESPN, they almost had to close 17th Street down. It was just something you've never imagined. And I remember talking to Rick Bozich as we were walking off the field. He's been around football, Zander, since like the early 70s. And I said, did you ever imagine Indiana football would be this fun? And he was like, nope. And so this is a never, ever happening thing. I know the Rose Bowl team, but this team has to finish, but it's crazy.
Yeah, and I think your point is, the team has to finish for all the talking that we're doing about Ohio State and playoff and all that kind of stuff. It's like the only thing Sig is thinking about is the next game, and that's exactly where this team needs to stay focused. So no, I'm excited, man. I very, very proud alumni. I know every former football player is just beyond excited, and this is the kind of potential we always saw. This is kind of what I always thought Indiana football should be. So I'm stoked, man.
Did you come in for a game? I saw where you said you letting people vote.
I'm talking to the administration right now a little bit about coming in, maybe for Michigan, maybe also for Purdue, to make a little bowl special. There might be a little surprise involved. We're talking about some things, so we'll see what happens.
Cool. Well, keep us updated, man. Great to hear that, and great catching up with you. Look forward to hopefully having you on again in the future and joining us on their daily radio show. Love your insights, and it's just always enjoyed watching you and your teams, man. Tevin Coleman, golly, I loved watching that dude run. Yeah. It was just like anytime, it was like lighting a switch or lighting a fuse. Sometimes it was just going to become a stick of dynamite, and some other times it's going to be a megaton H-bomb. But it was always going to be something. How incredible was it to play with guys like that?
Yeah, Tevin was amazing. I was kind of trying to survive, so for me, at least that season, I mean, so for me, it was like, I couldn't even really, I couldn't really appreciate it, I guess, to that degree. For me, it was like, just give the ball to Tevin and he's going to carry us half the way. I was just so much in survival mode. I was really the following season, watching, Suddy, Jordan Howard. That was pretty incredible. There were some real freaks on those teams. Again, Dan Feeney, Spriggs. But Jordan was like, I mean, when he showed up on campus, it was like he was like the most unimpressive looking guy you've ever seen. Like, he was kind of a little overweight, doesn't look particularly muscular or athletic. And then you put that guy in a football uniform and he's like just the ultimate running back. And the way he would just smash people. I mean, when we played Michigan and went down to the wire against Michigan at home, he was like, I thought he was going to kill somebody on the defense. I thought he was going to make someone's brain explode. Like, he would just punish people. I mean, even on the way down, wrapped up, he'd still somehow be the guy delivering the hit. So, he was incredible. Honestly, I've talked about this on Twitter. I don't want to belabor this, but the most impressive football player I've ever seen is Camion Patrick, who played like 4 downs. By the way, he scored on one of those plays, jumped over somebody and caught a touchdown against Rutgers. But Camion Patrick was one of the best football players I've ever seen, and everybody who was on those teams will tell you the exact same thing. So there was a ton of guys. I mean, even Mitchell Page. Mitchell Page was Wilson sat Mitchell Page down when Mitchell was like a sophomore, something like that, and basically said, look, you're never going to play here. You're too small. I just want you to know that. I don't want you to keep thinking every year you're going to play. Now, this was, I don't know why Wilson would do that. He was a nut job, but he had that conversation. I remember Mitchell, telling me about it. And Mitchell is a world-class athlete. He's just small. But Mitchell is like a self-taught golfer, and he could be in a semi-pro.
I played golf with Mitchell, and he is lights out.
Yeah, his clubs are like 38 years old. He taught himself. They're made out of wood, and he can he's like borderline a pro golfer. So, there was a lot of incredible athletes in all the Wilson teams. Again, Spriggs, Feeney, Colin Rarig, the offensive lines were just bananas. Wu Allen was a freak. There was a lot of talent. We still have guys in the league. Nick Westbrook is in the NFL. Who would have guessed that? Yeah, that's the most shocking. That is the most shocking thing ever. And that's not a knock on Nick. I mean, he's a great football player. But if you ask every single guy on that team who's making it to the NFL, Nick Westbrook would not have been in the top 5. And so it's just shocking. But it shows you how deep we really were. And it's so unfortunate that, we didn't have somebody who maximized our potential as a team. We just didn't.
Yeah. And hopefully that's what you're going to start seeing more and more of with Indiana. But they have a ton of talent right now, and they are tearing up college football. And I cannot wait to see how this continues, man. This has just been crazy just covering them. It's the fans they are all in now, and all this attention, it's just adding to that, and they are loving it. Indiana's a football school now, at least for now, until they're not, but they are right now. And I've said it, been saying it for weeks, Zander, I think that they're going to the college football playoffs, and
I think so too, man. And it's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I definitely think that they absolutely have a chance to win at Ohio State. Not saying that they're going to, but this team can beat anybody. The way that their defense is that good, and when they are at full health, their offense is that good. I've seen enough. I know. Now, does that mean things can't go bad? A pick, a fumble, another injury? There's a myriad of things that happen in football that we all know change things in a second. Look at Curtis Rourke right now. But with all things being equal, I think they're as good as anybody in America, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I don't know how anyone can look at this team at this point and call them a fluke. I think the Rourke injury, it was like, oh shit, man, is this just classic? Of course this would happen. This is what's gonna, now, create a couple losses for us. But the team looked amazing today. We can win with Jackson. We can win with Rourke. But Rourke's going to come back. It sounds like it's not too serious, and I think we're going to keep on rolling, man.
Sounds like it. Coach, any final words?
No, not too much to really summarize, other than the fact that now they set their sights on the brass spittoon up at Michigan State, which will be a hostile environment, and Michigan State's gotten better as the year's gone on with a young freshman quarterback.
Yep, and we'll talk more about that this week on Indiana Sports Beat Radio every day at 8:30 on YouTube, of course, or in the markets where our affiliates in Evansville, Hammond, Chicago, or Fort Wayne on radio. Zander, Diamont, I cannot thank you enough, man. Like I said, I have been looking forward to this, man. You were such a great player for Indiana. Just you and Mitchell both. You bring up Mitchell. You guys remind me of each other. Just got your shot and did everything you could with it. And I do think you were Mr. Excitement, man, because it was exciting. It just was always exciting and fun. And that's what it's about. And I'm glad you got to have that opportunity.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys having me on. This is super fun for me to just kind of get re-engaged with Indiana football, and I'm down to do it again in the future. So thanks for inviting me on. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'll try to get Mitchell so where we can schedule together. He's got a new baby as well. I'm sure you know.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, I'm going to text him.
Yeah. He's got a new baby as well. So yeah, he's taking care of that. But congratulations to you and your wife and child, and appreciate you being on with us, brother.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Coach, thank you again as always. We've got more coming up this week. Like I said, Coach is with us on Thursday, and then we'll be back next week again after Indiana takes on Michigan State to recap that and talk about what's after that, because that's when the fun is going to begin. But man, it continues. 8-0 Indiana. Where will they move to in the rankings? Where are they going to move to in the minds of the pollsters, the pundits, everybody? Where are they going to put them? Because they continue to win. Now they've done it with a backup quarterback, and I'm not going to call this a dominant win, but I'm going to call it a pretty damn impressive win. Their defense stood up and just mauled Washington. They had just a couple letdowns, that long 61-yard run. And if it wasn't for that, they probably don't score, maybe get a field goal out of that. So, and the offense is able to, Taven managed things today well enough, made a mistake, didn't let it get to him too much. And he was able to lead his team to a win.
Well, like they say, you are what your record says you are.
Yes.
And the Hoosiers are undefeated. So that's all that needs to be said.
That's it, brother. Well, appreciate you. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in for the Hard Truth Distilling Company's Indiana Football Post-Game Show. We're back every day, like I said, on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, where you can catch us here or on any of those radio stations. Until then, which is Monday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.